Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will call this regular City Council meeting of Wednesday, March 29th to order. If you would all rise for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which tonight will be led by Councilmember McPartland. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
And Councilmember Nunn.
Here.
Thank you.
Council, does anyone have any modifications to the agenda that they would request? All right, seeing none, we have a couple of proclamations. I'll go on down to the floor to take care of those. This is Karen Deagle from the
Senior Resource Association.
Senior Resource Association. This is a proclamation for March for Meals campaign 2022. Whereas Meals on Wheels America established the National March for Meals campaign in March of 2002 to raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the observance of March for Meals campaign provides an opportunity to support Meals on Wheels programs that deliver vital and critical services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about senior hunger and isolation. Whereas volunteer drivers deliver nutrients, meals to homebound citizens and individuals with disabilities, along with caring concern and attention to their welfare to help them maintain their health and independence and avoid unnecessary hospitalizations and or premature institutionalization, and provide powerful socialization opportunities. Now, therefore, I, Jim Hill, of the Mayor of the City of Sebastian, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as March for Meals Month in the City of Sebastian, and urge every citizen to honor our Meals on Wheels program, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them.
Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you. So during the month of March, we joined thousands of Meals on Wheels programs across America, raising awareness about senior hunger and isolation. Senior hunger and isolation are problems in our community. Food insecurity affects seniors differently. Even if a person has money to purchase food, they may not be eating a healthy diet. They may not be able to shop for the food for themselves and or prepare it for themselves. In 2021, Senior Resource Association provided over 138,000 meals to seniors in Indian River County. Our homebound meal program helps alleviate hunger for older adults. A hot, nutritious meal is delivered by our staff and our wonderful volunteers to our clients 5 days each week and offers 2 frozen meals on the weekend. All meals are planned and evaluated by a registered dietitian and provides at least 1/3 of the daily nutritional value necessary. This program is much more than just delivering a meal. It's also that daily wellness check. Our visits provide seniors and their families a sense of security and save lives. Sadly, for many of our seniors that we serve, this might be the only social interaction that they experience in a day or a week. This daily feat of providing over 450 meals each day could not be accomplished without our wonderful volunteers, and we have over 150 currently, and we always need more. There's still so much to do. Right now, currently, we have over 168 seniors that are on a wait list. They've contacted us, they have asked to be fed, and we can't feed them. The cost to feed a senior is $3,460 per year. On March 15th, 16th, and 17th of this month, we're hosting March for Meals, which is our wonderful opportunity for public leaders and members of our community to experience the gratification of delivering a nutritious meal to homebound seniors with one of her wonderful volunteers. And I know many of you have participated previously, and I know there are some that are going to be participating again, and we appreciate that. So we thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the proclamation. And I do have a video that's just a couple minutes long that gives a really good understanding of what the program is about. So thank you.
Good morning, this is Brittany.
Hey Brittany, this is Jim Gregg. I'm in slot 4 and it's Route 4A.
When the volunteer shows up, they have their route code right here, and then every day we give them a new pass key.
Now we've got all the people that we have to deliver to.
Meals on Wheels provides that hot meal each day. Meals on Wheels has been part of the Senior Resource Association family of services for 47 years.
Okay.
We can't do this program without our volunteers.
It's funny when you're driving with the actual meals, you start thinking about the people you're about to see and what they've been facing, who's in their family. By the time you get there, it's like, I know him, I'm glad to see him, this is an old friend.
Thank you, we so appreciate it.
All right, I can tell he does.
It's been an unprecedented time for all of us. COVID really brought to the attention the vulnerability of seniors. We experienced such a high volume of calls from people who needed food. At our peak, we were serving 16,000 meals a month. Not only am I concerned about continuing to feed everyone we are now, but also be able to start helping those that have asked for food. We are always looking for more volunteers. A volunteer gets to choose what days they want.
Touching base and making sure people are safe is so important beyond the meals. I personally have had an incident where I went to the home and rang the bell, and the man yelled out, "Help me, help me." So if Meals on Wheels hadn't come, who knows how long he would have been there. I have certainly developed friendships with my clients, and many of them are excited to see me.
It's reassuring to have someone come by on a regular basis. You know what's going to happen on Monday morning. I'm going to show up with a meal for you.
To see the smiles, to see the joy, and to know that they've got a prime quality meal coming to them. These Meals on Wheels are very essential for our community and for all our seniors.
Meals on Wheels certainly opened up both of our eyes that in this wealthy community, we have pockets of people that certainly need help.
I can hold it. You can shake hands.
Perfect. That's better.
There we go. All right,
Thank you
Karen,
so
thank
much.
you so much.
Really appreciate it.
An amazing, thank you. Amazing program. I had the opportunity to ride 1 year with them, and I wish I had the opportunity to do it every year or more often, because just getting out there and interacting with the public and those individuals who actually need it and who it helps. It's amazing how much just that one interaction a day and the smiles that they put on their faces when you walk to the door matters. So thank you so much for that, for what you do. Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan? How are you? Hi, how are you? Very nice to meet you guys. This is a proclamation for Irish American Heritage Month, which is fitting, for March 2022. Whereas the month of March has been recognized as Irish American Heritage Month by Florida's Irish American community, Ever since the military governorship of Irish American Andrew Jackson, Irish Americans in Florida have provided leadership and service to their state, counties, and local communities. And whereas by 1776, nearly 300,000 Irish nationals had emigrated to the American colonies and played a crucial role in America's war for independence. And whereas 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence were of Irish descent and 3 were Irish born. And whereas it is fitting and proper to celebrate the rich cultural heritage and the many valuable contributions of Irish Americans. Now, therefore, I, Jim Hill, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Sebastian and on behalf of the Sebastian City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as Irish American Heritage Month in Sebastian and ask our citizens to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in our city and county. All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce my wife first. She's the Florida State Ladies Ancient Order Hibernians President. I'm on the Florida State Board, but I'm also the past president of the division that's located here in Sebastian. I'd like to give a little more than just knowing that the people that are founded on the Declaration of Independence. In 1762, the members of the British Army who were Irish were allowed to wear the green for the first time. They weren't allowed to wear it in Ireland under penalty of death. They were allowed to wear the shamrock and the green, and they marched in New York City, which I marched a few times. And that started 1762. We were started in 1836 in New York to protect the churches and the clergy that were being attacked. The ladies came about 1872, and they followed and joined us as a separate unit. They were a separate organization, but we worked together. And we work towards basically Christian charity. And we do a lot of that. We give money, $1,000 to the Irish schooling over in the University of South Florida. We give money there. We give money to all charities around, the Women's Center over in Vero. We work a lot for charity. That's what we do. And we're having, over here in St. Sebastian Church on the 26th, we're having a heritage event over there, and we invite everybody here to come over. It's $25. You get bangers and mash, and we have Irish dancing, Irish singing. We have some of the best Irish singers around. One of the young girls from the neighborhood here, Colleen Jordan, she's going to go far. She's going to be singing there. She's 17 years old, and she can sing. So I'd like to invite all of you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
She's very shy.
Yeah. Well, I'll be wearing the green and the Irish on Saturday in Melbourne. Sorry.
Oh, we're going to march in Melbourne, too.
Yeah, there you go. See, we'll be there. So we'll see you up there. I'm Irish on Saturday for sure.
Come on. Lou, you going to take a long one?
The lady from Orlando, she worked in dispatch.
This is going to go into the national paper.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
I asked her who the trooper called me.
Michelle? We have a proclamation for Flood Awareness Week from March 7th through the 13th, 2022, and this is going to be very brief. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Sebastian, Florida, to be affixed this first day of March, 2022.
And I would just like to add, if anyone would like more information, you can visit the city's Facebook page. This week we have a new topic posted daily on flood awareness, and you may also contact the Community Development Department for additional resources and guidance.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much. Okay. We now have a presentation of the fiscal year 2021 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and Annual City Audit by Mr. Ross P. Cotherman of Raymond and Robinson. Sir.
Good evening. Hi. My name is Ross Cotherman. I'm the principal in charge of the audit for the City of Sebastian. So I thought tonight I'd just take a few minutes to go through a couple of documents that you've received. One of them quite lengthy, another one that's not as lengthy. So let me just talk about what you have. First of all, you have what's the comprehensive annual financial report. It's 180 pages long. And the name says it all. It says Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Municipalities are required to just issue basic financial statements But the city of Sebastian, for a number of years now, has made a commitment to be more transparent, more robust in their financial reporting, and chooses to, and volunteers to present their financial statements on a comprehensive financial basis. It's different than just the general purpose financial statements. In addition to that, you volunteer and participate in the Government Finance Officers Association program for excellence in financial reporting. The financial statements are submitted to that organization. They review them independently, and if they meet their strict criteria, they issue you a certificate of excellence in financial reporting. And that certificate is in here for the prior year. You've received that for a number of years, and we're quite proud to be associated with the city and helping you to maintain that. I will tell you that less than 0.5% of all municipalities participate in that program. And in addition to that, quite frankly, the size of the city of Sebastian, it's quite rare to have a municipality of this size to participate in that program as well. So you should be quite proud of yourself and quite proud of the transparency and the additional financial reporting that you try to present to the citizens. So let me just give you just a quick overview of what's in here. There's really 4 sections. There's an introductory section, and included in that introductory section is that certificate of excellence we're talking about. The financial section, which is the biggest section, starts off with our opinion. The most important thing you want to hear is that our opinion is an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we can give as a CPA firm, which is what you would expect to receive. Then starting on page 17, and probably if you look at nothing else in this report, starting on page 17 is what's called the management discussion and analysis. And it really condensed down and makes the financial highlights of the whole report on about 17 pages. It gives significant overviews. It talks about, identifies the changes in the city's financial position, and where you're at based on your financial plan as well. So page 17 is really a nice high-level document for you to look at and really gives you a good summary of, quite frankly, 110 pages of financial information that's in there. One of the things that separates from the comprehensive part of it is on page 121 is a statistical section. So there's several pages of financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, demographic, economic information, and operating information as well there. And some of those are 10-year trends. So it's a great place to go look for a snapshot if you're looking at some trend analysis as well. And then the last part is internal control and compliance testing. There's some reports in there that are required by the state of Florida. We have to do some specific compliance testing based on the rules of the Auditor General, and those reports say that you comply in all respect to those requirements. Traditionally, you would have seen also, after all of that, a single audit, which is an audit of your federal and state grants. There's a threshold, $750,000 of expenditures. You didn't meet that threshold this past year, so therefore you weren't subject to a single audit. So one less document that you'll see in there. In addition to that, starting last year, the state of Florida, and I don't know the reason, I can speculate as to why, but they have requested that all community redevelopment agencies issue a separate standalone report as well. So you have a separate report here for the Riverfront Community Redevelopment Agency. And what's interesting about it is it's already a major fund in your CAFR, so it's already subject to some additional testing requirements, but the state of Florida requested any community redevelopment agency over $100,000 to have a separate audit. So that started last year. This is the second year that you've been subject to that as well. Same thing, our report's on page 1, unmodified opinion, highest level of assurance we can give you. There's an MD&A in there that's about 6-8 pages long, talks about financial highlights for the past year, and then the basic financial statements start on page 14. A lot of information to cover. I always offer that I'm available if you want to meet independently. If you have some questions, I'm happy to make myself available to come meet with you to review anything that's in here. And then lastly, I'd just like to say it is a pleasure working with the city, your staff. You know, the fact that you have this comprehensive annual financial report, I mean, speaks a lot to the transparency and the information they want to try to provide to the citizens. And I think I've said this the last few years as well. You know, one of one of the intangibles that we look at as an auditor is the tone at the top. So how's information provided to us when we have audit questions? If there's discrepancies or something that we're not expecting, how is that corrected? And I can tell you, from your city manager all the way down, the tone is superb. We are always given what we're asked for. We're always given it timely. And if there's a question, the response is timely and accurate as well. So we appreciate that. And again, I think that says a lot about the quality of the work that's done here. So if there's any specific questions tonight, I'd be happy to answer that. If not, again, I'd be more than happy to meet with you or take a phone call at any point in time.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kothman. I think it's a good example of the staff that we have here, and we appreciate you very much. Yeah. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
I have one. I just want to say thank you. You brought up something. People love to say transparency, and they say lack of transparency, you're hiding things. And it's nice to hear the people auditing us say how transparent our city is, how we go above and beyond to make sure the information is there to be available. Thank you for doing a great job, and thank you for we have a great financial staff here, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And you can't underscore the importance of, it's easy to sit here and talk about a 180-page document, but the information and what's in there, and quite frankly, that document, if you wanted to file just the basic financial statements, would be 70 or 80 pages long. So that is part of the commitment. And as I said, again, the municipality, the size of Sebastian, it's pretty impressive that that's the route that you've taken and have taken for 15, 20 plus years. So
great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right,
thank you. Appreciate your time.
And thank you, Mr. Kilgore, and your staff for everything you guys do. Thank you. Vice Mayor Jones, brief announcements.
Under brief announcements, just for your information, the City of Sebastian has received its 20th year Tree City USA Award. 20 years we've received that award. That is amazing.
It's amazing, great.
It is amazing. On March 12th through the 13th, the Craft Club of Sebastian will be in Riverview Park from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. On March 18th through the 20th, we have our Shrimp Fest and Craft Brew Hullabaloo in Riverview Park. Ooh, it was hard to get that word out.
And what a great event that is, and we look forward to that very much. Thank you very much for that. Council, do you have any additional brief announcements you'd like to make? All right, seeing none. At this time, it's public input, item 7. At this time, anyone who wishes to bring forward new information or requests to the City Council that's not otherwise on the prepared agenda, you can do so at this time. Anyone wish to speak this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Andrea Ring, Quarry Lane. I am currently serving on the Police Pension Board, which meets tomorrow, so I'll be here tomorrow. I do have a couple of things I want to say. Was that one meeting, you had people show up here for Krabby Billy's with their orange hats on. I asked to get an orange hat, and I was told I was the enemy, and I was not allowed to have an orange hat. Those hats are a political statement, and if they show up in chambers again, Mayor Hill, I expect you to not allow them to wear them. We understand that? That's a political statement they made. The other thing I have is, I know you all, I am a senior citizen, and I do need help. And my granddaughter is coming Sunday, thank you, she's coming to help me. But some of these people want to put in like the little houses, so I hope we all don't think that. If we need a little house in the backyard, why not put in a trailer? We don't allow people to hook up trailers in the backyard. I don't think we should be allowing little houses in the backyard either, because they need to be hooked up too. But on the other hand, I would love to see us maybe do duplexes, because if you are a senior who needs help and you can't cook like me, I don't cook, I eat out a lot, thank you. I eat out at Winn-Dixie Deli a lot, right around the block. Yeah, Winn-Dixie is treats me very nicely. The thing is, a duplex then would allow me to maybe rent out, because I will not have somebody come in my house and live in my house with me. I could rent out a duplex if I owned one, and then I could rent out the other one, which would help with our rent problem then, because then we would have I would not have to charge a large amount of money for somebody to live there, and if they're helping me, if they're taking care of my, I need light bulbs changed out, I need air filters changed out, I could use help. I need my house cleaned. Anybody want to volunteer for that one? All right, so the senior citizens then I think could duplex, and then we would get some places to rent. Now, again, location, location, location. You put a little duplex out and you see the river view, you know it's not going to go cheap. So I had my daughter just, would you believe it's coming down to Disney World. So 2 weekends from now, my daughter will be here. And they're going up to Disney World, and she checked out hotel rates up there. It's $650 a night for a one-room hotel room up in Disney World. So if you have a view, if you have something to offer, that's what you're going to charge. So if you put these duplexes in where it's not going to be, and you can't do rate control, rent control, that would be nice too, but I don't think so. And a condo would work nice too for people who need to help with the mother-in-law. And if the mother-in-law is in the back bedroom, I can tell you right now, she's probably not happy. She needs her own space. And unless, a lot of mother-in-laws do take care of the kids. Now, I could travel and drive my grandkids anywhere they want to go. So that would be a nice benefit for a family that has little kids. All right, is my 5 minutes up yet?
Yeah, about 30 seconds.
It's up, right? Okay.
You
I
have
did
about 30
want to say
30
one
seconds.
more thing, though.
She got 30 seconds, ma'am. You're fine. Go ahead. About 30 seconds.
Okay, now about the houses again. I went out to an Adams house, and I don't know why or how he got to build back into the city of Sebastian. Mayor Hill, you said when his model went up, it was going to be good for business. But the houses he's built are built too quickly, and I don't see how it passed code. The 3 houses behind me got started in January, and they cleared the lot in January, and they're already in those houses. Yes. So, and these are Adams houses. I went to another Adams house because it was under construction.
Ms. Ring, if you could wrap it up, you're over 5 minutes now. So
okay. But they're under construction, and the driveway was all ready, and that was a brand new house that nobody's moved in yet. Okay. And I thought Adams in 2006 had a lot of houses that had to be redone.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to us this evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who wishes to bring anything forward to us this evening? All right, seeing none.
You have somebody on Zoom.
All right, wonderful. Awesome. Go ahead on Zoom.
Mr. Simmons? You'll need to unmute.
Mr. Simmons, go ahead.
He's working on unmuting.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just have one question, and it actually relates to the riverfront property that includes the Krabby Bills. Maybe what the status is, or kind of an update on that, if you would, please.
All right, we don't have a status report at this time. We can talk to the city manager at the end of the meeting and see if he wants to let us know where we stand with that. But you could also give the city manager a call or his office, and I'm sure they could help you out. But we will. I will bring that up under my matters and ask him what the status is on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else?
No one else.
All right, at this time, that leads us to item 8, the consent agenda. Council, what's your pleasure on item 8?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move approval of consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Item 9, community reports and appointments. We have a couple of Planning and Zoning Commission appointments to make this evening. Council, we have, I think, 5. Is it 5?
Yep.
6 folks that have applied. What's your pleasure on the Planning and Zoning Commission this evening?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
If I may, we lost 3 really good, long-standing people off our Planning and Zoning Board, 7, 10, and 11 years. And one of those was an engineer, and I noticed looking at the applications and such, I would like to recommend for nomination of Sarah Battles for the open position.
All right, so we have 2 positions that are available. One of those positions is a term that will expire May 21st, 2022. And then we have another one that will expire May 1st, 2023.
Mr. Mayor, the
Yes.
2022 is actually, will go to 2025.
As long as we approve it.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So is that the one you would like to nominate her for?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations for the term to expire 2025? All right, thank you very much, and congratulations, Ms. Battles, and I appreciate your willingness to serve.
Oh, wait,
Thank you.
I had a question.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Because I was trying to see.
Are we
which
trying
one-
to nominate
On
someone
the
different for
first
that?
one, I was just wondering, on Miss Battles, she worked for Kimley Horn. Is that going to run into any kind of conflicts with planning and zoning?
Does she continue? Does she work for Kimley and Horn at this time?
She does. We have another person on planning and zoning. When items come up before them that they are working with, they have to abstain.
So it's not a conflict of interest unless it pertains to something directly
That is correct.
that Kimley and Horn would be dealing with? Okay.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. I have Ms. Battles for the term to expire on 2025. Are there any other nominations for the first?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Mr. Cristino.
All right. Anything else?
That's the term that expires on May 1st, 2023?
2025. It's at our discretion.
Item number 1.
Item number 1.
Or I.
It expires 2022, but we can push that up to 2025, which is the
Yeah, and my nomination would be to, for Sarah Battles for that term to include the extension to 2025.
Okay, so I have Ms. Battles and Mr. Cristino. Anything else? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Battles.
Councilmember Dodd,
Battles.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Cristino.
Councilmember Nunn,
Battles.
and Mayor Hill.
Battles.
Okay.
And next we have item 2, which will be a term to expire May 1st, 2023. What's your pleasure on that one, Council?
I'd like to nominate Stephen Lucier.
Stephen Lucier. I got Stephen Lucier. Is there any other nominations for the term to expire May 1st, 2023?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move Mr. Cristino.
All right. Anything else on the term? All right, this is for the term to expire May 1st, 2023. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Dodd,
Lucier.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Cristino.
Councilmember Nunn,
Lucier.
Mayor Hill,
Lucier.
and Vice Mayor Jones.
Lucier.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate everyone's willingness to serve on this very, very important board. Very much. Council, are there any other reports from committees that we've been on?
Mayor Hill?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say for the other members that applied for this particular board, if you're in the audience, do not be dismayed by this. There are other boards and there'll be other positions come up. So please, we need all the volunteers that we can. So put in information or leave it in. Our city clerk will handle that. Just want to make sure that everybody knows that it's nothing personal, that there are going to be plenty of opportunities. So if you want to serve, please continue to leave your application with the clerk. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And the willingness to serve is very, very appreciated, and we look forward to working with everyone on that. Thank you. That moves us to item 10. There are no public hearings this evening. Item 11, unfinished business. At this time, we'll consider and recommend a spending plan for the funding received for the American Rescue Plan Act. Item 11A. Mr. Carlo.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, this is an item that was brought back up during January 26th. We scheduled 2 workshops on that date. We heard from the public and we heard from the council and the recommendations. One was to offer an incentive to employees. We found the rule in the new rules that allows us to do what's called retention incentives. So it's not necessarily that you've worked through the system, but this is to maintain employees to help keep them from looking for employment elsewhere. And in this job market, it's important that we keep these high-quality employees that we have. The other was spending money on stormwater. We know how important that is in our community, and that it is one of the reasons we're doing the stormwater master plan. So we've laid out some projects for that, and the other was roadway infrastructure. So we've put some money, $500,000 in for roadway infrastructure. So what it boils down to is we will be receiving $3,332,790.34. We have allocated in this plan, if council approves it, $497,656 for employee retention incentives, and it's broken down by part-time, full-time, and there was some consideration for the time that they served during the COVID pandemic from March of 2020. $750,000 for the Gardenia Ditch. That canal backyard ditch has been collapsing for a number of years. City staff has tried with no success to try to stabilize that. We had an engineering firm, JMT, design the drainage, and then we're hoping to get that project completed as soon as possible, and this money will help us do that without having to use general fund monies. $750 for Schumann Drive. That culvert was put in some time ago. It's not in the great shape, and we also know that it is undersized. And the Concha Dam, that dam is currently leaking. We think we can put a wall in front of it, but should it be determined that wall has to be replaced, it may be more expensive than what we had been figuring in the budget for a number of years. And then obviously the $500,000 for paving. And I think we follow direction of council, but we're willing to, take direction from council and amend the plan and discuss it, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, council. Do you have any questions of staff at this time before we get to public input?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I don't see why we have to do this tonight. I would like to wait a little bit. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in the world. I talked to the city manager. We're looking at getting that stormwater plan back in August or September. Money doesn't have to be spent tonight. And I'm in agreement with doing the stormwater repairs that need to be done. But if that stormwater plan, say it calls for I don't even know, a 3-inch pipe to fix it right now. Maybe the stormwater plan comes back and says it needs to be a 6-inch pipe or larger. I would rather wait until, that plan comes back and then kind of make these determinations.
I would guess, and I'll ask staff if this is not correct, that any project is going to be fully engineered to be properly done prior to spending any money on it. Of course. So whatever the plan comes back wouldn't change the engineering of a project. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mayor, the Gardenia Ditch has already been engineered and designed, and the flow calculations. It's not a major flow-through ditch. It's a neighborhood ditch, so the amount of discharge into that has already been calculated. The Concha Dam is one that we know. We've had MBV look at it. They agree that it needs to be replaced. We haven't done the final engineering on it, but the stormwater plan, I don't believe would change that. It's a dam. The elevations in that can't change by permit, so it's just a restructuring of that item. Schumann Road was designed to be originally a larger pipe. It was actually designed to be a conspan crossing, and we would have to engineer that to make sure what size pipe or box culvert has to go in it, but that would all be considered when we do that. So these I don't feel would be changed by the stormwater master plan, but we will have some information from them, and we're having the model ran now, and we can always run that model. And if it has to be changed, during the engineering design process, we could do that. So,
and we could wait years to spend this money.
No,
but we have good use of the money now.
Yep. So the money has to be obligated. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that we could wait another 6 months, another 2 years. What is it? When does this have to be spent by?
So the money has to be obligated by 2024. It
Right,
has
so we
to
got a couple of years. We could just wait until 2024 to spend it, right? But we have good projects to use it on right now.
We could wait, we have to have it obligated, so we'd have to have the money, we'd have to have the projects designed and engineered by the beginning of '23 to get the project probably bid out and done and obligated. They don't have to be completed until 2026.
I got you.
But all the money has to have a PO and a contract written for it by December of 2024. So there is some time provided in that scope that we could wait till, first part of 23.
To do this. Right, okay, thanks. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
If I may. I see no reason to wait to identify some money for projects we know we have. There's no reason to wait to do that. I think the city manager was pretty clear that I'll use the dam as an example, that the money that has been budgeted for it, they don't think is going to be enough, so this money will help with that. If they don't use all this money, then he can come back and say, hey, we have extra money left over, we can use this towards another project. I don't think by us approving this spending plan is immediately obligating this money for these specific projects. Maybe the employee incentives, but as far as the rest of them, it's going to take time to finish getting these together. Why should we wait any longer to get moving on these projects? We have storm water issues. We have a solution for some of those issues. I think we need to move forward now. I recommend that we approve this plan.
Okay,
Mayor?
thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm having a hard time with the retention incentives. It's not what's here. We talked about this, and I find in the document where we can pay premium pay, but I really don't find the retention incentive component in that document that explains that. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that I've been around long enough to understand what happens when you're dealing with the federal government. And if the federal government actually comes back after the fact, and that's one of the reasons for if we allocate this money and we notify the federal government that we've allocated money to the Conchna Dam, and we decide we want to use that someplace else, the federal government's probably going to beat us up over it and tell us we can't do that, that we've already allocated it. That's the way they do things. So one of the reasons that I tended to think that Councilmember McPartland had a good point was that you don't want to allocate this money to a project till you know for sure you're going to use it on that project, because the government will do that kind of stuff to you. But I don't have any problem paying retention incentives. I just want us to understand that if there's any chance that they can come back at some point in time in the future and tell us that we paid money to classifications of employees who aren't eligible under this program, that we're going to make that good out of our general revenue. I mean, we're just basically, if they were to come back a year from now or 6 months from now and tell us this $497,000 we paid in incentive payments, that of that $97,000 was paid to non-eligible employees, that's $97,000 worth of our general revenue that we are going to allocate to pay that. And that we all should recognize that when we make the decision to pay these retention payments, that we're agreeing to do that if it comes to that. I think it's important to understand that.
Well,
yeah.
I get that and understand. One second, please. I get that and fully understand what you're saying on that. But I would suggest if we go back to the projects, the Concha Dam project is a project that is a need. It's not if we're going to do it. It's a project that will be done. And so whether this is the monies that are allocated to it or monies that we generate in other ways, the monies will be allocated to the Concha Dam project.
Yeah.
So those are projects that are going to be, money's going to be spent on those. Those are, no question, going to be done projects. We cannot go forward without them.
And we actually have $400,000 in our current year budget to do that project.
Right.
And what I'm hearing is that $400,000 is probably not enough money. And we're going to throw another $700,000 at it. So now it becomes $1.3 million. It goes from $4 to $1.3 million. And if it doesn't go to $1.3 million, where's the other money go? My question is that if you've got $10 and you say I'm going to allocate $5 to do this, but you only need $3, that other $2 has been allocated. Now, how do we manage that through a budgeting process? If we've got $400,000 currently allocated in our current budget, which we've agreed we have money to do for the Costa Dam project, and it's going to cost $6, then we really only need $200,000 of this extra money. We don't need $700,000 of this extra money for that project. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And I guess that money would always be reallocated. So, but anyway.
That's
I
the
have a question
is
that
can
might
it
help
be-
clear
can
this
it be-
up.
This is a legal question.
Yeah. Okay.
Once we allocate it, can it be reallocated?
So the question I would ask related to this is us earmarking this money for our use allocating as far as the federal government? Or are we going to earmark and say, we're going to use this money, okay, we're going to need 500,000, we're going to notify the government, then we're going to use that money for this project? Because we're earmarking it, does that mean we're allocating it as far as the federal government's concerned? We're just giving a plan of what we're going to do with the overall money and the spending plan, not allocating it, right?
Correct. So what the government, federal government considers obligating is you sign a contract, you sign a purchase order. This is a proposed budget plan for this money. It's not allocated. It's not it's earmarked, but it's not allocated, and it's not obligated until the purchase orders are signed. And the answer to the second part of that question is we keep that 400,000 in our stormwater and use that money for stormwater projects that come up out of the stormwater master plan. Again, we only have till 2024 to obligate this money. If it takes a long time to design that Concha Dam project and we get close to that, we could still use the 400,000 that we have. But if we don't allocate this money or get it obligated and we hold on to it, we could lose it. So that's.
So are we going to move the current $400,000 to a transaction from the Concha Dam project to the stormwater reserves?
Yes.
So it's physically going to be moved to the stormwater reserves?
Correct.
We're going to see it, at our next quarterly report, we'll see a transaction doing that.
You'll see a budget amendment. Well, you'll see an amendment to the budget to move it back into reserves.
Okay, all right.
So that way it's not, that 400,000 is not earmarked any longer. It'll be there for future projects.
And so the idea here is that these projects they do take years to get done. Some of them. And so to get to the point of contract, some of these things need to start now to get to the point of contract by 2024.
Hey, I don't have any problem with any of these projects. My concern is that this is a federal government program in which they've tried to write rules 14 times, and they'll try to write rules 14 more times. And I just want to make sure that we don't find ourselves 18 or 24 months from now trying to come up with $3 million out of our ad valorem tax structure to cover the fact that the federal government's come back and says you didn't play the game right. So I just want to make sure that we're playing the game right. I don't have a problem with a single one of these projects.
I would just say to that, I agree with you. And I understand the consternation in dealing with the federal government. But I would also suggest that we have professional staff on hand who's required to make sure that we are doing what's in the best interest.
When I said, does it allocate, I'm watching one of those guys shaking his head like this.
So as long as that professional staff is doing their job, I mean, we are not the ones, we are not the brains behind the hows and the whys and the wills. It's them. And so I understand in dealing with the federal government, but what we, and I'll just stop after this, but what we also want to make sure is that we don't get ourselves into well, we should just wait, and then all of a sudden we don't have any projects to spend the damn money on, and then that money doesn't come into the city of Sebastian.
You don't need approval from us tonight in order to create this budget. The only thing you really need approval from us tonight for is the retention incentives. Is that correct?
So
yeah, you need to answer the question about the retention incentives. You were able to find that in the book?
Yeah, page 28, providing worker retention incentives, including reasonable increases in compensation to persuade employees to remain with the employer as compared to other employment options. Retention incentives must be entirely additive to an employee's regular compensation, narrowly tailored to need, and should not exceed incentives traditionally offered by the recipient or compensation, or the alternative, employers may offer to compete for the employee. So, and as Councilmember Dodd said, the federal government always changes rules. We see that with FEMA. It's dealing with federal funds is always a risk. There's always a risk to when you get the hurricane reimbursements. We've seen it in other states and other counties in Florida where they come back and said, nope, we've made a mistake, give us all our money back. We feel pretty confident about this. There is never a guarantee with federal funds. And, nothing's to say that some of these projects may get funded by FEMA, and then we have to reallocate this money somewhere else again if I can get FEMA funds. So we're always going to go after funding to try to help with these projects and maximize city dollars using other dollars. But there's nothing says that we might not get funding from a FEMA grant because some of these projects are on our LMS, Local Mitigation Strategy Plan, and FEMA may go, oh, we got some money, we'll pay for that, and then we'd have to move that money again. So we want the flexibility, but we also want to utilize those federal dollars that we all pay into to offset our local dollars.
And it's not federal dollars, it is our dollars. It's the dollars that the citizens of Sebastian paid that we're getting back, supposedly.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Yes. Ms. Jones, good right now? We get to some public input?
No, they covered everything. I was going to let them know for Councilmember Dodd that the page number that information was on about the retention was on page 76 of our agenda package, which is 27 and 28 of the federal government documents. But that's already been covered. So
I was going to say, as our auditor said earlier, we have a very, very good financial staff, and Ken likes to go through these books. I think he enjoys it, going through these multiple pages of documents and finding the answers, and he's very careful with things. So I have faith in him and the hard work that they've done and their team.
All right.
Well, I was looking to take it two separate things. You got the projects, and then you have whatever you want to call it, retention incentive. And I've been as supportive of the employees and the police as long as I've been here, even before I've been sitting up here. And when you talk about a retention incentive, that's for somebody who's looking to move. And you say, look, I can bump your pay 10% if you consider staying. If everybody gets the retention incentive, then is it a retention incentive? Because what I looked at is, I talked to the city of Vero Beach. They're not doing any premium pay. And they're actually not even discussing what they're doing with the money until their April 1st meeting. This gets me back to, do we got to do this tonight? Indian River County did not do premium pay. St. Lucie County did not do premium pay. Martin County, I spoke to the commissioner today, we were at a meeting, they did not do the premium pay. And I spoke to the mayor of Palm Bay, they did not use this money for the premium pay. And again, like I've reiterated with this money, you want to look at this as found money. It's not going to be here next time. We got to look at projects that are very important. And I hear that these projects we're going to allude that this money's going to go towards, it's going to work. But again, I've been waiting on this master plan that is the master plan to set all master plans behind. And I'm saying, we got time. We can wait 3 or 4 months. We don't need to make this decision today. I mean, I just filled up the gas tank today, and it was $4.29 a gallon. I mean, we didn't expect COVID, and we're 2 years into that. Now we got gas that's at $4.29. Who knows what it's going to be next month? And we're allocating this money. We have some time. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Our employees also pay that same amount of gas. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this issue right now? Yes, sir.
My name is Terry McGinn, Miller Drive. I think everybody knows me. I wasn't going to speak, but I just got motivated. I was at the Mosquito Control District meeting last night and the Taxpayers Association lunch today, and I wanted to shout out to everybody. What's happening, as Bob said, with fuel, just fuel alone. Mosquito control is very fuel intensive. We are fuel intensive as a city. I'm on the Budget Advisory Board with Ken, and I feel that for every project like stormwater that you can backfill with this, that's one more place that you'll be able to come up with the funds that we're not going to have for the rising cost of food, energy, gas. We've got to have a tough time. It's going to be worse than the pandemic. And I really believe that, like the pandemic, we should wait a little bit and make sure that we've got money to backfill what's going to be an awful time. And I said that to other people, not just the city council. But I would like to add one more thing before I finish, and that is, I have pitched the city council and the city of Sebastian and the job they're doing so hard that people are asking me to just leave it, back off a little bit. Somebody said to me today, "You're really in love with that city, aren't you?" And the fact is, yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's never anything wrong with coming up and disagreeing with anything this council does. That's the beautiful thing about where we are. We want people to come up and tell us what they feel. We're representatives of every single person in this community. We're 5 individuals who think on our own. And so all of your comments, whether they agree with mine or Mr. Dodd or Mr. McPartland, those are all very important comments, and we welcome them. We don't dissuade them.
Anybody knows me know I'm capable of disagreeing. I did during the whole recall.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak on it? Yes, ma'am. This side.
Sharon Herman, Sebastian. There were just a few comments I wanted to make as far as the employee incentive or whatever you'd like to call it, because I know through the different meetings, everyone's trying to decide exactly even what to call it, whether it's a retention bonus, whether it's an incentive, whether it's a thank you for showing up to work when a lot of people didn't, whatever. I think it's awesome that we want to treat our employees with the respect that we appreciate them for showing up, for doing their job, and for doing above and beyond their job in a very difficult time. And the fact that that money is allowed to be used, part of that money is allowed to be used for that, I would have to trust that Mr. Carlisle would have researched the rules, knows who is allowed to get that money and who isn't, and would not put the city in jeopardy to do that. As far as the projects on Sherman Drive and the other projects that you've listed, if this is a plan and not a full-time commitment, or a full, what did you call it? Allocation, yeah. Okay? It seems to me like Bob just said, Mr. McPartland just said, gas just went to $4.29. Last night I paid $4.09. I've never put $75 worth of gas in a vehicle in my life. Next week that gas is going to be $4.49 or $4.89. It seems to me that the more we're saying, let's wait and do this, let's wait and see what happens, let's wait and do this, every day you're waiting to do that, the prices are going up. The longer it takes to get a bid on a project and get a commitment, those prices are going up. By the time we go to do the projects, we may find out that this money that has been allocated to the city isn't enough to do our projects. So now we've got 4 projects we were going to do in March of 2022. Now in March of 2023, we don't have enough money to do those projects. So now we're starting all over, and in the meantime, we're running out of time to even be able to get the commitment and get the federal funds to do them. So I think that's something that maybe y'all need to consider as well, is how the costs are going up. The value of your dollar that you're getting back is going down every single minute that we're even sitting here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Margie Hasmanis on George Street. About the retention bonuses, I work in a local hospital, and what I've seen is you have people that are being enticed to go elsewhere for a lot more money. So what you're getting stuck with is people that are not as committed to the city, who are people that are not as emotionally vested in the city. So if I had to say, just to pass this, just for the fact of keeping our quality employees here, I would 100% do that. And with the other items, I don't know if we pass that bill, if that locks in that price for how much it costs at that moment. It locks in that price and they can't raise it any further. That would be something I'd look at. But the incentives, I think, are a big thing, because we're seeing it now in the hospitals, and I can guarantee it's going to trickle down into other businesses. You're not seeing it with wait staff. You're seeing it with people just at local stores. You can't get service because people are traveling elsewhere. They'll travel an hour away to make a lot more, double your money. So that would be one thing I would look at. But I would say yes for the incentives.
All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item this evening? on Zoom?
There is no one.
All right. Thank you all for your comments. All very, very important and good comments. Council, I quite frankly think that that we should go forward, and I would make a nomination or a motion that we go forward and ask the city manager to go forward with this,
I would
with his
second
recommendations.
that. Second that. And also, I'd just like to say that here in the city of Sebastian, we are leaders. I don't want to follow another city or another municipality. We have led the way in many different areas, from stormwater to keeping our lagoon clean. You know, I think we need to focus on us and not worry about what some other city does. We need to take care of our employees. We talk about this fuel cost the way it is. These incentives will really help those employees on top of that, because we are. These fuel costs are high. I too filled up just yesterday, and it was a lot more money than I'm used to. So I'm really in support of moving forward with this. I don't think we need to wait or decide what other cities have done. Let us be the leaders that we are and move forward with our city.
All right, thank you very much for that. Any other comments from council members? All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
and Councilmember McPartlin.
No.
Motion
All right,
carries.
thank you. That passes. I appreciate you. And now we move to item 12, new business, ordinance number O-22-03. Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first reading of ordinance number 022-03, proposed land development code amendment, Article 22 and Article 16, amending sections relating to the mural, and if approved, to set a second reading and public hearing on March 23rd, 2022. The ordinance reads, this is an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, amending Land Development Code Section 54-5-22.2, providing a definition of terms regarding murals, amending Section 54-3-16.3, providing for exceptions pertaining to murals, providing for severability and repeal of law in conflict, providing for codification, providing for scrivener's error, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mayor, member of council, this ordinance is a result of the approval of the chamber handling or permitting the murals in the Riverfront District, the CRA district. A couple conflicts in our ordinance that wouldn't have allowed that to happen was, one, we didn't have a definition of mural, so this ordinance provides for that definition. And second, it modifies colors and parameters because our current color wheel scheme within the CRA district doesn't allow for some of the colors that would be needed in a mural. And lastly, it defines what a mural themes could be out there and to be consistent with the mural applications. And if there's any specific questions, Ms. Fraser's here to answer those for you. But this is basically to get our ordinance in line with our mural program.
All right, great. Council, do you have any questions of staff at this time?
Yeah, Mayor Hill?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
These are just a couple of wonky type things. In item number 15, it says, shall not exceed 100% of the size of one wall. Murals that utilize more than one wall shall adhere to the size parameters to be continuous in approved category. And I'm not sure the word category there, what kind of meaning that brings to that. I understand what you're trying to do. You know, if they've got a 20 by 40 foot wall, they can do 20 by 40, but if the way they want to span it, they want to go around a corner with part of it, they could start here and go 40 feet around the corner. I just don't know what the word category means in that regard.
So there's in the ordinance, you'll see there's several categories that were presented, fishing scenes, different scenes or categories were defined in the application. And I'll have to find the exact language.
Well, no, that's not in the ordinance. That's in the Sebastian River Area Public Mural Program document.
There was a section that I read, but yeah, so the categories were defined by the
mural document.
Yeah.
And that's my next two questions about that.
Event of natural, social, cultural, or historic significance under the definition of murals. A sense or event of natural, social, cultural, or historic significance.
Okay.
So those are the categories.
I just don't know how the word category there ties back to something, and I'm just,
Okay.
you know, if I'm reading this and I'm coming in here and I'm trying to figure out what category is, I don't understand how category meets that. That's just another thing.
Is there?
Okay, there's two documents here, 2 items that are referenced: Sebastian River Area Public Mural Program and Sebastian River Area Public Mural Program Committee. Those 2 entities are not defined anywhere in here. Should they not be defined? Because they're the fallback on this, and by saying in our code that these guidelines are set forth by the Sebastian River Area Public Mural Program and not have a definition of what that program means makes it very difficult to understand how to flow through that. So I would think in our definition section, we should define those 2 entities.
We can, and we can do a drop down for the categories under that as defined, and then drop down.
Well, yeah, add or go over under the mural definition and say, you know, some categories are, boom, 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 or something.
Well,
I don't know how you want to do that word-wise, Smith-wise.
I think it may be to add the categories under this section 15 and bullet point those, or letter them 15A, B, C, D, E. I think would be the appropriate way to handle that.
So those definitions.
If no one has any other questions, I'll move that we approve this with those modifications.
I second that.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? It's pretty much cleaning up the mural program.
Yeah, very exciting.
Anything else from council members? I like what you brought up. That's good stuff. You know, and I think the easy thing is just to pop it in there. If there's any question, just put it in there. Right. It's not going to hurt to do that. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, item 12, Councilmember Nunn, law in the city of Sebastian. Going to vote no. Anyway, item B is discussion and direction on drafting a pet waste ordinance. Mr. Carlisle.
So at the last meeting under commissioner comments or council member comments, Councilmember Nunn had asked that we talk about waste ordinances. And one of the things that came out of that discussion was that the code officer was writing or enforcing the dog waste ordinance of the counties in the city. And the city clerk found documents where the city actually adopted the county ordinances as it came to pet waste collection and enforcement. So we do have a mechanism, and so I don't know that there's much we need to do about this because I think it's handled through the county ordinance, and the county ordinance has a supersedis ordinance over ours unless ours is more restrictive. So that is something you can discuss if you want to add a more restrictive ordinance and or just maintain the county ordinance as is.
I'll just defer to Councilmember Nunn and ask him what he's looking for.
I would just like to defer to the city manager and let the, let's just go with the county ordinance. There's no point in, it didn't seem like from our discussion last time that we needed to go more restrictive, and knowing that if we needed it, we have a mechanism to enforce if it was needed.
Yes, we do.
Then we're good.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Anything else from council members?
I like what was said in 87. Vice Mayor Roth said Sebastian residents are paying a county tax for animal control, and the county should have the job of enforcing the ordinance.
There you go.
I like that.
Perfect.
So the kudos go to the city clerk for researching and finding that.
Yes. Yep.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
We have a great city clerk.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak on a pet waste ordinance?
So we're looking to implement this ordinance?
No.
No.
No,
Okay. So
we're
no ordinance,
staying
no
the way
nothing.
we are. The county has an ordinance in place, and that's been adopted by the city of Sebastian years ago, and we're currently under that. So if somebody has an issue with a dog pooping in their yard, they can call the county or our code enforcement, and our code enforcement can deal with that. So
they would call the county. Who from the county?
No, you call City of Sebastian, I'm sorry, you call our code enforcement or our police department and say a dog pooped in my yard, and they'll be like, all right, well, let me go check that out. And so we have a mechanism in place where we enforce the county ordinance that's already in place.
So we're good.
Okay.
So it's already in place.
It has to be our code guy who goes there to give them the ticket?
Well, we enforce it in the City of Sebastian, is that correct?
We do, but county animal control can as well.
They can as well.
Okay, because I would rather county animal control, they could come into the city of Sebastian and issue the ticket?
Under this ordinance, because we adopted their ordinance, we vacated our pet ordinance and adopted the county ordinance. So the county rabies tags, the county shot vaccine requirements, the county's ordinance is applicable here. So either the county animal control officer can cite people in the city, or our code enforcement officers can cite in the city. But you know, the challenge is proving that the dog did it. So.
Right. Well, my reasoning being, I would rather the county employee come here to issue to the resident of Sebastian. If it's our code enforcement guy, if it does wind up going to court, they have to travel down to the court in Vero, which would take you at least a half hour, back and forth travel cost, and sit around. And we'll see no benefit when they pay a fine to the county court system.
So you want to have
It's like speeding fine. So if somebody's calling on somebody to poop, I don't want our code enforcement guy going, because we see no benefit for them enforcing the law. Do you understand what I'm saying? We don't get any benefit from the ticket being paid or anything. I just call the county people, and they come issue and then fight it all out. They collect the money.
I would guess that benefit would be that we have a law in place that doesn't allow people to let the dog poop in your yard.
Well, there is,
I guess
but
that
I
would
want
be,
the county people to come and issue it.
so they can do that, right?
They have the ability to do that.
We have the ability to do that. Unless you want to put a new ordinance or a new law in place.
No. I mean, it's the same thing like speeding. I said, you know, because I talked to Jeff Smith years ago. I says, for people who speed in the city of Sebastian, how much do we get out of a ticket that a police officer writes? Nothing. So I was like, our magistrate could probably hear speeding tickets, and we do it here. That way we keep the costs, all the court costs, everything here. No, the county wouldn't let that happen. What I'm saying is, if we have our police or our code enforcement issuing the ticket, and they have to go down to the county to go fight, support, you know, to collect the money, we see no money out of that.
Well, based on my experience with civil citations and stuff, I believe that's in statute, that if a citation is written within a municipality get a portion of that money. It doesn't just go to the county. A large portion goes to the county because they handle the jail, the courthouse, and all of that. So I believe the city does get money from civil citations, speeding tickets, or whatever, so.
It's not worth the hour minimum that it costs to get to the courthouse, plus what it costs
So we
them
can
in gas
just,
and time.
so then I would ask what your solution is your solution to say that we should not have our code enforcement or our police officers responding
Correct.
to pets?
The county.
So that's Mr.
County.
McPartland's idea, so. Okay. Does anyone agree with that?
I don't agree with that. Well, people should enforce the laws here, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. So you don't need any action on
I
this,
don't
right?
think we did any direction.
Okay, I'm fine. Whatever direction council.
So direction is that everything stays status quo on the ordinance.
Sounds good.
All right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Does anyone need a break before we get on to the next one? Or are we
Yes.
good? You need a break? All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break, so we shall be back at approximately 7:20. all back and ready to get back to work here. So we will now move to item 12C. Item 12C, consider a code enforcement lien reduction for 373 Harp Terrace. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mayor, members of council, I'll let the city attorney address this because there's some legal issues, and I want to make sure that we don't step outside of those bounds, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council Member. The agenda speaks for itself, but I do want to bring several issues to the council's attention. Number one, mainly is, how do we get here? Back in January 4th, 2022, a lawsuit was filed by Wells Fargo against the property owners. We received that notice of service because we had a lien. We were contacted. On or about February 18th, I filed the answer on behalf of the city of Sebastian. And by doing that, what we did is that we preserved our rights. We preserved the lien, we preserved the city's asset, and at this point in time, we're waiting for the surplus funds to collect the monies. So I want to emphasize, number one, is that, again, this is a legal lien. This is, we've done nothing wrong. I went through the entire packet that I sent all council members. We did absolutely nothing wrong 3.5 years ago. This is a legal lien, and technically what I mean by that, it's our asset. It's the city's assets, and you guys now can make the decision based on that. So this was dated, the lien was dated back on, as your packet shows, back on November 19, 2019. We actually filed it, rendered it in court on November 25th. That was officially filed with the records, again, therefore making it our asset, City of Sebastian's asset. So what you have before you today is extenuating circumstances, or like I like to say, a hardship consideration for council to consider on behalf of the two property owners, Nicholas and Rachel Hopfer. So whether or not it's a hardship or whether or not they can show extenuating factors for you to consider. What I would like to emphasize is we're not relitigating this case. We're not relitigating our code enforcement case that was 3.5 years ago. By statute and by our own policies, they have the right to appeal, which they did not in this case. So it is preserved. So again, it's a legal lien and it's a legal asset that we have. So why are we here? So currently, City of Sebastian doesn't have any code specifically, doesn't have any directive, any policies that address specifically what do we do with the reductions of lien? Who do we go to? For example, it hasn't been delegated to the special magistrate, which might be a good idea because therefore everything is under oath and the testimony is at that point sworn. What you're going to be hearing today is unsworn comments and or testimony, which you give it whatever weight the council decides they want to give it at this point. So again, it's a legal lien, it's an asset of the city. It is within your right because it is an asset whether or not to consider a reduction in this case. You guys have every right to do that. However, if any hardship, let me emphasize that. Of course, that's going to be presented to you today. However, it's my recommendation to stay the course. We've done what we had to do as far as the city is concerned. We filed the legal lien. It is right now preserved within the court, and it's the asset at this point in time. So subject to any questions you guys might have before we start, I would like to introduce today two attorneys, one that's representing the wife, in this case, Rachel, and one that's representing the husband who's here by Zoom. So if you can, the gentleman you got here is Jeffrey Batista. He's representing the wife, and he has a, go up there, introduce yourself. He has a short little presentation, and by Zoom, we have Cheryl Moore. I believe she's going to give mostly a presentation. She's going to keep it hopefully short and simple, and then back to council to ask any questions of me or the attorney. So through you, Mr. Chair, leave it to you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My other counsel in what is a dissolution of marriage case, and the reason that we have appeared rather than presenting any sort of sworn testimony from the actual property owners is because there is pending litigation. Ms. Moore and I are working very diligently to try and resolve these things. It is our goal as attorneys in these positions not to raise the temperature and add unnecessary dramatics to these types of cases, which we're trying very hard to do. So we are very much aligned in this case. I agree with the legal standing of the lien. I'm not here to challenge the legalities of it in any way, but this is a case that came about factually by virtue of, you heard the lawsuit, was a part of a foreclosure that had occurred. There is a hardship factor to be considered here. I don't want to leave Ms. Moore out. She's from out of town, and so she was going to make a lot of the presentation here. And Cheryl, I don't know if you can hear me and if we can hear your voice to make sure you're there. And she should be on Zoom. Okay.
Can you hear me on Zoom? I do have it on unmuted, Mr. Batista.
You're good.
Can you?
So Cheryl, with that, I'm going to let you go ahead and say your piece, and I'll fill in anything afterwards if there's anything else that needs to be said.
Okay. Mr. Batista, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can you hear me?
I can.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. First of all, I really appreciate you accepting us into your chambers this evening, and Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and council members. Mr. Batista and I happen to be opposing counsels. The parties are going through a contested divorce. I'm not here to speak about that at all. This is a case wherein there are two children, Isabella, who's in 8th grade, Nicholas is in 7th grade. And unfortunately, they've been caught in the crossfires. And there is a valid lien. There is a debate as to whether or not and who knew and who didn't know about the lien, but it was a lien because of a trailer. It was a violation. And it was a small trailer. The trailer value is about $150, I'm told. I've never seen the trailer. The trailer was there for so many days, maybe perhaps 2.5 years. And was never moved until very recently. I am advised that there were previous violations regarding the grass being too tall, and it was cut immediately. Regarding a boat, and it was moved immediately. And so I am advised by my client and by Mr. and Mr. Halford, the property owners, that they did take this seriously. They are extremely distraught over the status of this lien because it happens to total, the fine is $81,850, which is a substantial sum of money in a house that's going to be selling for $255,000. Now, why should you care? The reason why is because there are two children involved, and the reason why I went to law school 22 years ago is because I wanted to do something for children's rights. I don't represent the children. I'm not a guardian ad litem. I represent Mr. Halper. Mr. Batista represents Mrs. Halper. But we're both jointly very concerned about the fact that this lien, yes, valid, is going to eat into the equity so substantially that in the dissolution, after everything is said and done, because this is the party's one asset, they have one asset, which is this house valued at $255,000. After the mortgage is paid off, they will not have enough money to go and acquire two houses. Even if the lien were relieved or lowered, it will be very difficult for these children to be rehoused. And again, this is not your problem. People go through divorces all the time. But Mr. Batista and I are here to tell you that these are good kids. I have pictures of the children. They're sweet children. They are going through depression. They're going through anxiety. They've gone through COVID like all of our children have. They are suffering through the breakup of their party's divorce. They're caught in the crossfires. And I hate to see two sweet children that are already compromised. One has learning disabilities, to be negatively affected to the point that they cannot obtain new housing because of a $150 trailer that wasn't moved. Now, I'm told it belongs to Fred across the street. I don't know who Fred across the street is. And again, it should have been moved a long time ago. And the lien of the $100 fine is appropriate because the parties, if you add 100 times 365, jointly they don't make $36,000 a year. The children already are on public assistance. They have food stamps, the SNAP nutrition. The house has been through 2 different foreclosure actions. Both times it was saved, most recently as last year. And so I'm here in the unenviable position to ask if you could please find compassion and understanding, not for the party's sake, but for the children's sake, because when it's all said and done at the end of the day,
the $81,850 that your city is rightfully owed because the trailer was not moved will cause two children, Isabella and Nicholas, to not be appropriately housed after the dissolution of their parents' marriage. So I'm here to answer any questions. We're kindly asking for compassion, and if you could find it in your heart to lower the lien or remove it, because it has to do with a small two-tired trailer that I guess was used to transport some rubbish to the dump sporadically. And that's why I'm here this evening, and Mr. Batista is here too.
And I wanted to echo Ms. Moore's sentiment on this and just add to it. These are two hardworking people. They were very much hit by the COVID crisis. My client works in corporate event planning and virtually has had no work in the meantime. I believe Ms. Moore's client has done some of that as well and is a handyman, was unable to go into people's homes for quite some time. So these are not folks that are proud of being on any sort of public assistance, but there is no savings, there is nothing else. This is not a case that Ms. Moore and I are involved in on a profit type of basis per se. We really are looking out for the best interest of all of these folks, regardless of our positions in the lawsuit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
To echo that, I know the children were recently involved in a trash pickup through their civics class. I know Mr. Hultford served in the U.S. Army. He's a vet. He served 1987 to 1991. They both sat on served jury duty. The property has been deeded to them since 2005. They've paid their taxes dutifully. They shop at the local Publix. They've gone to the North County Library. They've returned their library books. The children are not delinquent. They're sweet kids. They're really nice kids. They say please and thank you. And they're already going through the trauma of their parents' divorce and losing the only home that they know. This is their childhood home. And they have fond memories of being there, and now the home will be gone. And so it's my goal as a family practitioner to make sure that both parties have access to funds to be able to rehouse their children. And I know this is our problem, and it's really, really too bad that this happened with the trailer. But we're asking if there's any way you could find some compassion in lowering or eliminating this particular lien. Maybe they could do some community service hours. I mean, maybe we could be creative here, but that's what we're asking for this evening.
Anything further?
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. If we have any specific questions for you, we'll get back to you guys, okay? Council, I'm going to go ahead and just start out here with a brief statement, and I'm not going to discuss any of the legalities of what's going on with the relationship or the family or the children, and it's definitely unfortunate that oftentimes children have to pay the price for bad decisions made by parents. And that happens all the time in this world, and that stinks. But if we go back to the facts of this case and just stick to those facts, on September 16th of 2019, at 373 Harp Terrace, there were two notices of violation that were dropped off. And those notices of violation, one of them said a trailer must be parked behind the front line of the building. And then it said a little star on it, and it said, please move trailer. You have 5 days to move that trailer, or failure to comply could result in a lien of the property, a notice to appear in a county court, or fines up to $250 a day, every day the violation occurs. That was way back in 2019. There was also another one that was left on the same day that said, please remove all trash and tree debris from the property, which was apparently stored in the trailer. And that also had 5 days to do that. Thank you, 5 days, and it said, please remove this. Apparently at the time, the property owners determined that our laws didn't matter, so they didn't do what they were asked nicely to do when they said, please remove. So 8 days later, 3 days beyond the 5 days, they were noticed with a code violation. And in that code violation, it stated, and this was on September 24th of 2019, it stated that the trailer must be parked behind the front line of the building, please remove the trailer from your right-of-way. Again, it said, this is what the ordinance is. It's got the ordinance written out, and it said, please move your trailer back. You don't get to choose what ordinance you like or what one you want to follow. That's not up to us. We follow all the rules and ordinances. And here's a notice of violation. It says, please do that. You have 15 days from the time of the receipt hereunto by the city of Sebastian before we go to the next step. They also received one for the debris in the trailer. Same thing. You have 15 days. It's required that that stuff be removed. 56 days went by, and it went before the magistrate. And that's on November 19th of 2019. And all the while, the property owner's saying, your laws don't matter in Sebastian. I don't have to follow your laws. They don't matter. It's a $150 trailer. It doesn't matter. I can park it wherever I want. It doesn't matter if that trailer is a $2 million motorhome. You still can't park it in your driveway. That's our rule. If you don't like the rule, change the rule. But that's the rule that's in place. So 56 days later, it goes before the magistrate, and they are ordered. You are hereby ordered to respond, or hereby order the respondent to bring the property into compliance before the 29th, which is another 10 days they were given to do that. And should you not do that, you will be fined $150 per day thereafter. Property owner said, oh wait, and I'm sorry, item 10, it says, any party aggrieved by this order may file an appeal with the Circuit Court of Indian River County. Such appeal shall not be a hearing de novo. I don't know what that means because I'm not an attorney, but our attorney knows. But shall be limited to appellate review of the matter. So they could have appealed it if they wanted to. Nothing. That law doesn't matter to me. It doesn't pertain to me. So they didn't do anything. 79 days after being notified the first time, 79 days, trailer stayed there, and they started collecting fines. And they still said, screw you, city, your laws don't matter. So at what point do we say our laws do matter? Do we say they matter in the case of you guys in your $150 trailer, but not you with your $200,000 contender that you want to put in your driveway, which you cannot do, and which people complain about all the time? They want to park their boats in their driveways, but Sebastian's a special and wonderful, amazing place to live, and it's because that the people of the city of Sebastian have for a long time determined that these are the rules and the regulations that we want in this city. They're the ones that write the ordinances. They're the ones that we represent. So when these laws are put in place, it's the people that we're representing. So to hell with those laws. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go a couple hundred days and collect these fines, right? Screw you. The laws in Sebastian don't matter. And now we're being asked to say, you're right, they don't, and write this off. Now, I personally think our laws do matter. I think our laws do make Sebastian a beautiful, wonderful place to live. And everyone comes here and says they're great, but then they complain about the little ones, but they follow the laws because they get a thing that says $150 a day if you don't move your stinking trailer. And they left it there. Day after day after day, up to 2 years, until only they decided that they were going to move out or sell the house, and then they had to get it out of there so they could get this thing cleared up. I will not even consider a reduction beyond 50% of this. I think that $81,000 is a crazy amount of money. But I think that we have to do something to show everyone in Sebastian that this is real. I mean, our laws matter. And if we don't stand by our ordinances, the ones that the citizens of this community wrote and developed and put in place, then no one has to do it. Put an 8-foot fence up where you can only put a 7-foot fence up. Put your boat in your driveway. Put a trailer in your driveway. Put your car up on blocks and put it in your front yard, because our laws don't matter at that point. So we have to, I believe, stand by our ordinances and our laws, and I am going to stop at that point because I'm getting a little bit heated here, because I understand the heartstrings, but the job that we have is to make sure that we are fair to the people of the city of Sebastian.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, just a point of order. It's actually $100 daily fine.
Okay.
And it's $150 for the admin fee.
Okay, yep, my bad. So that's it. So to whatever it is. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, sir. You know, the ultimate goal of our code enforcement is to achieve compliance and not to be punitive. We want to achieve compliance first and foremost. Second thing, according to what I've looked at in our records, we have more, upwards 90+% compliance to our code violations. So most people that get hit with a code violation, they comply because they don't want these fines to accrue and get to the level where we are tonight. Now, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that do not allow for timely compliance. I understand that. COVID, all these other things, family matters. You know, based on what I've heard and what I've read from our packet and everything else, you know, I'd like to say pay the whole thing, but I am not opposed to a reduced fine amount, something less than the 81 plus. So that's my take on that right now. So,
Mr. Mayor? So I've spent a lot of time looking at this whole situation, the whole case, and while I completely agree with you and am against reducing fines under most circumstances, there are situations in our world that involve extenuating special circumstances, situations that cannot be avoided. And once again, we can't get into any of those extenuating circumstances because they have an active divorce litigation case going on now. But with everything I've looked at and read and researched, I'm actually going to make a motion. And my motion is... Can you wait? He's got the right to... I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. My motion's going to be... the cost of this has cost the city about $1,500. And my motion is going to be reduce this lien to $1,500 to pay the city back for their time that they've spent. It's been a really bad situation, and once again, we're not going to get into that bad situation. We're not going to go through that here. But sometimes you have to do what you might not always agree with to do the right thing. And I think the right thing for this is to let these two people sell this house, go their separate ways with as much money as possible during these economic times to be able to make a successful life for these two children.
That's a motion. Does anyone second that motion? All right, hearing none, motion dies on the floor. Okay. Mr. Dodd.
Thank you. I want to thank the city attorney before I start. After the young lady involved in this party addressed us, I believe at our last meeting.
Yeah.
And I read some information that I saw. I contacted Mr. Anand and asked him if he would do some research and determine, first of all, is there really a valid offer, and does the bank who is foreclosing on the property agree to that offer, and so forth. And what I was really interested in finding out is, from a legal perspective, is there something that the city can actually get involved in this? And he's done I think, a great job of orchestrating the hearing this evening by working with the two attorneys and getting them here. This could have been a slugfest if it was done the wrong way, and I think Mr. Anand, our city attorney, has done a really great job of making sure that we're dealing with just what we need to deal with. So I want to thank him for that. I too agree that this is kind of a quandary for me, because I'm one of the ones who believes, like Mayor Hill does, that you break our laws, you should pay for it. And we have other code enforcement violations that are piling up, and because people have homesteaded their property, we can't go after them. I've actually, if you can remember, 4 years ago, I think, asked our attorney at the time to look at rewriting our code enforcement policies so that we literally could do what other people are doing, and that is foreclose on non-homesteaded property that has large code liens. I've noticed that the county at their last meeting approved foreclosure on 3 pieces of property that fit that category. But I do think the circumstances surrounding this particular case are they kind of draw at your heartstrings a little bit. And the only reason, Councilmember Nunn, I didn't second your motion is that I believe $1,500 is not sufficient. I don't necessarily know that I feel that $100 a day on a piling loan that we can't foreclose on is really something. I think that we should probably be talking more like $25 a day on certain things and $50 a day, but we seem to always go from code to between $100 and $250 a day, and we make it sound like that everything is so horrendous. At a $25 per day fine, which I personally would think would be more appropriate for something like this, that lien right now would be $16,300 and some dollars plus the $150 would be $16,500. And so I think that we are protecting the integrity of our code enforcement system, and we are providing some extenuated relief in this particular case if we were to reduce this code to this fine to $16,500, and I will make that motion.
I second that motion.
All right, thank you. I would just say that I understand the extenuating circumstances, and it's a heartstring issue for me too. But the fact of the matter is, this was a in-your-face, Sebastian, I will not listen to you, your laws don't matter, and that is not acceptable to me in any way. Mr. McFarland?
This is interesting. I mean, when I first, I had heard a little bit about the last council meeting, and then when I got a little bit more information last Friday when I got my packet, I read, and I was just figuring, how does it get to this? And I'm not even going to tell you guys what I went to trying to figure out ways around this thing to help people out. And then when I seen what it was about, a little bitty trailer with a paint can on it that turned into $82,000. And I'm not going to relitigate the case because the city did exactly follow the letter of the law to the T. But I'm just amazed. And then and the only reason we heard about it, or it stopped, was because probably the bank and the title company got involved. The house was being foreclosed. That's the only reason. Because Mr. Dodd did $25 a day. Okay, because these fines would still be incurring to this day unless that house was foreclosed on. And that would be an additional $12,000. So if we just went by your $25 a day, it would still be an additional $3,000. I don't know how we get to this. I think in the future we need to look at the whole code enforcement as a thing, but I'm in agreement with Mr. Hill, and this other thing in talking to Mr. Anand, this is a city asset. This is an asset of the city. You know, if we could collect, unfortunately, $82,000. So I'm telling the taxpayers, I mean, we were just talking about $3.3 million earlier today. This is $82,000 that the city has, and we're going to forgive somebody up to what? So I'm in agreement with Mr. Hill about 50% I would go to. I mean, I don't know what to say, how it got to this point. Obviously, somebody knew that it happened. So either they thumbed their nose at the city and says, I'm not going to do it. I mean, because I know a guy lives around the corner from me, parks his boat in the driveway. Whether or not he's been cited, I do not know. I'm not making a complaint. It doesn't bother me. It might bother somebody else. And again, where does it stop? Because if we forgave $82,000 for this, we're going to have a long list of people like, hey, I'm going to park my boat in the driveway. I don't care what the city does. I'm going to put up a 10-foot fence. I'm not going to follow the code because you're setting a precedent for just forgiving for something silly. And again, the city followed the law to the T, and this is where we're at. I mean, it's like, I remember we forgave 1 year ago the development by the Publix, but the guy built the pool and it was on somebody else's property. And he finally let the house go into foreclosure, and the bank came to us and we gave, not 100%, but we gave major relief so they removed the pool, but then they were able to sell the property and get somebody in there. You know, this is, you know, I got to agree with you, Mr. Mayor. The law is the law.
Yeah, one more thing before we go. Had this gone to foreclosure, this is for the attorney or Paul, had this gone to foreclosure, when they sold, whatever thanks to Manny, he preserved the city's rights to whatever the proceeds would have been. So the bank would have got their money, and then we could have got ours because we would be second in line. We would have gotten whatever, but it may not have been the 81,000. It could have been 40,000 or 20,000 that was preserved for us. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. How I understand the parties, we will be inferior to the mortgage from the bank, and there was another party involved, but we would probably be superior to them. That will be determined down the fact. So I believe we will be second in line to the surplus funds. Anything that we don't take, then it goes to the owners.
Right. So based on that, you know, I can't, in good conscience, go for anything less than 50% of it. I'm willing to forgive some of it, but that would be my position. So I just can't see, you know, people not obeying our codes, you know. And so, I'm willing to forgive. I understand the situation. There is extenuating circumstances, and I'm sympathetic to that. But we also have to look out what's good for Sebastian. That's what we're here for all of Sebastian. So if we open the door to doing all these, forgiving everything, then what else is going to happen down the road? So I can't support anything less than 50%. So.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item?
May I clarify one
1 minute,
point?
ma'am. 1 minute, please. Anyone on Zoom?
There is no one.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify for the record, and Mr. Mayor and Mr. Vice Mayor, I and Mr. Bautista are all for the law is the law 100%. When I first spoke to your city attorney, who's been excellent, I asked about service. And I said, what do you have that would prove, because we have to prove service, right, due process, notice and opportunity to be heard. There's a debate, and I want to just make it clear that neither party is alleging or admitting that they received notice of it. And so I don't know if it was given to one and maybe it was disposed of because of their circumstances or given to the other. But I don't want it to be thought that they received notice and said, wow, $100 a day, well, I'm just going to disregard that. Because as far as I can tell from my side of the case and Mr. Bautista from his side, is that they're alleging that they didn't know, and if they did know, they would have moved it. And in fact, when they were notified by the title company, when the home was listed for sale and they received a purchaser, then they were told and it was remedied immediately. So these are the type of people who don't thumb their nose at the law, and I like to see the good in people, and I like to think that they're telling the truth when they say they didn't know, and if they did know, this would have been remedied before. And I tend to believe them because when there was a violation of grass too high, they cut it. And when there was a violation that there's a boat, a dinghy or something, and it needed to be moved, and it was moved. And this is not even their trailer, it was the neighbor's trailer, so this goes into no good deed goes unpunished. And I understand your position, and I know it's a slippery slope, and I know this is challenging. I would just ask that you remember that this is for the children, and this is not for the parties. This is for Nicholas and Isabella.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Anand, was this properly noticed? Did the city go through the proper legal means of noticing the individuals and going through the process properly and legally?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I reviewed the packet after I submitted to council, and I did go over specifically the statute as well as what we had in the packet. We did two different notices. First of all, we sent out the certified return receipt letter, which went. It was returned as that they didn't sign for it, and it was returned. So then we do a follow-up by statute, which we posted. And those are the pictures that you noticed that they actually went out there and they posted on the door. That's the second method. of notice since they didn't receive the correspondence initially. By statute, and I'll read it to you if I give me 1 second. I did bring it. The statute clearly says, so I already stated the two ways that you can notify: certified return receipt, and that's Florida Statute 162.12, subsection 1, subsection A talks about that method. And then when you're looking at, if that fails, you're looking at 162.12, subsection 2, which is the posting. And what I wanted to bring to your attention is subsection 3, and I'll read it. Evidence that an attempt has been made to hand deliver or mail notice as provided in sections 1, which I just stated, together with proof of publication or posting, one or the other, as provided in subsection 2, which I mentioned, shall be sufficient to show that notice requirements of this part had been met, without regard to whether or not the alleged violators actually received such notice. So that is sufficient notice. The fact that we've complied with it, also the fact in your note, in your packet, you have the affidavit by the code enforcement officer that he actually posted it.
All right,
Hope that answers your question.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I thought at the beginning we weren't going to relitigate the case, and I thought Mr. Batista said him and his counterpart were not here to kind of relitigate the case, and
I apologize for that. So, I mean, would you wish to amend your motion, or do you want to go forward with that motion? It appears as though 50% is the...
May I?
You
well,
may?
we have the, don't we have a-
Before we
whatever
do
they
that-
had on the board, 1,200?
Yeah, 16.
And
Before we do that, if I may, I'm not a bleeding heart, but without getting into anything, there are circumstances beyond control, and that's the only reason I made the motion I made, and why I agreed to Councilmember Dodd's thing. And you know, we can't get into all that, but I definitely do not feel this was a complete thumb nose to the law. I think there's way, way, way far extenuating circumstances, and I would implore you to, as we move forward with Councilmember Dodd's motion, that you consider the situation is not everything as it may look, and go from there.
And I want to reiterate, I think I know more about this case than I really should know, or that I really want to know, but I agree with what Councilmember Nunn just said.
All right, thank you.
My intent with the motion was to try to protect the integrity of our code compliance system by at least going back to a daily fine that might be somewhat more reasonable in some cases, and at the same time try to, I'm not going to say I'm not a bleeding heart, but I'm kind of a compassionate person in some regards, so I do have somewhat,
right.
So I you know, I don't want to amend my motion. Let's just go forward with it, see what happens.
All right, roll call, please. And the motion is to reduce it to what number?
$16,500.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Hill,
No.
Vice Mayor Jones,
No.
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin, and Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
The motion fails.
May I make another motion?
Sure. You may.
So I make a motion that we reduce it by 50% and move.
I'll second that. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd,
No.
Councilmember McPartlin. Yes. Councilmember Nunn,
Yes.
and Mayor Hill.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I will just say that I think all 5 of us are compassionate, good, caring individuals. And that's why we're elected to come up here.
Partial release later.
And there's a lot of problems that people face in this world, and it's very difficult. I've got daughters, I've got sisters, I've got brothers, and it's a tough world out there right now. And, you know, a lot of people are dealing with stuff, so, you know, we're very compassionate, but, you know, the integrity of our ordinances, I think, is critical. And so a reduction of 50% is a tremendous gift to this family. So, all right, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, just one point of order. I will then prepare the partial release and file it accordingly.
All right, thank you very much.
On to something funner.
Yes, fun, more fun.
More fun.
Come on.
I like funner. It's much funner.
All right. So yes, it will be more fun to discuss the City of Sebastian's 100th year anniversary celebration. Mr. Carlisle.
So fun stuff on the agenda. So this is, we're coming up on, I know it seems like it's a long ways away, that 2024 seems like a long ways, but we know how time flies. So in your packet, the clerk had found the minutes from the December 8th, 1924, at 7:30 they voted to make the town of Sebastian a municipality, and then in 25 they changed it to a city by statute. So it's going to be an exciting time for us, and I know the clerk's been working diligently with Vero. They did their 100 to get us some ideas on how to move forward. I think it's important that we get a committee together to do our celebration committee that has a long standing in the city, been here a while, that will provide us with some, and that are willing to participate and work on it so they just not show up. So I've talked to a few people, but I would like to hold it around 7 to 10 people, 7 being a more manageable number, to try to get people working, putting to celebrations, or making themes for our Christmas parade, our 4th of July, you know, and it's special events for this, and even our Shrimp Fest, and I do a theme-based events for our 100-year celebration. This is huge, and so I don't know how you want to proceed. You know, our recommendation is if you can give us some names. I can tell you I have talked to former Chief Morris. She's willing to do it. I would suggest Ms. Kinchin be involved. She's been here. She's been with Public Works for a long period of time. But these are merely suggestions. If you can give us some names, and we'll try to compile that and put that committee together. Or if you want to appoint people, that would be fine too.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary. I think this should be a completely apolitical group that sort of just decide, you know, I mean, you know, some of the historians that we have in the community that, you know, I don't want to date myself too much, but I'm in the 75th year anniversary picture that's upstairs, you know, with the little ones, and I looked a lot younger, but I was fatter, I think, back then, believe it or not. I think I was heavier. I'm not sure. You could probably tell me, right? Jeanette, I was fatter back then, right?
Don't say it.
Anyway, but I mean, it's you know, it's the 75th anniversary celebration was fantastic, and it was wonderful, and I think that led to some of the things that we have in Sebastian, like the clam bake and some of those other things, and so I'll take, you know, whatever the council wants to talk about on this, but I think that I'm sure that an apolitical committee that could get together and work with the Chamber of Commerce or any of the others in the community would be outstanding for this.
Yeah, Kathy McDonald, we can get her from the Historical Society. Obviously, she would love to, I'm pretty sure she would love to be a part of that because she's a visual historian up here in Sebastian.
Right.
So Kathy McDonald from the Historical Society.
And I suppose
others.
we could probably just say, hey, you know, these are a few people you want to contact, Mr. Carlisle, and go forward.
Yes, there's two. I'm going back to a meetings I'm watching from another city that's kind of dysfunctional, and they're having their 100-year anniversary this year. And their problem is that their committee's made up of all experts, but nobody wants to do any work.
That's my fear.
So there's two actions that have to take place here. One, there has to be a group of people, let's say a 7-person committee, that has to actually do the work. And then they would call upon the experts, Historical Society people and so forth, to assist them in putting that together. And I would think that this best thing for us to do would be to basically establish a 7-person committee, put out the word through the newspaper that we have openings for this committee, and to come up with a little application that says, you know, what are your qualifications for being on it? And also, however we write the charter for the committee up, make it so that someone who already serves on a city committee or commission can serve on this. Because there might be people on the Plain Zoning Commission or others that might want to be involved in it, and you don't want to walk them out.
Well, this is sort of be like an ad hoc or something.
Like an ad hoc, like an ad hoc committee.
Non-governmental committee.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'm saying that seems to be like, you know, people who, you know, I think that political appointees should not necessarily be
No,
engaged.
it shouldn't be.
Just go forward.
Right.
But all of what they do that's going to require expenditures would likely come to council and discussions on parade dates and whatever it may be. So, I mean, ultimately, everything will come to you guys.
They've got to come up with plans and budgets and then bring those to the city manager, and the city manager's got to work through that process and then bring those to here, to provide them funds to do whatever they're going to do. But there is an awful lot of work to doing something like this, and there needs to be a working committee that is there to do the nuts and bolts work. And I agree with you 100%. But I think we can ask for volunteers and get information from them on what their qualifications are. And if we get 25 names, then we can go through the 25 names and pick 7 people that we feel are appropriate. Or maybe we pick more than one group. I mean,
right. I mean, but you can have a committee and volunteers.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a different. You know, you can have the committee of whatever 7 chosen ones, but the volunteers who are willing to go out and do some work also. So.
And you know how much work there is in things like planning a parade. We might need a parade committee, then we might need a festival committee, because there's a lot of work in doing these individual things too. So it might be that at the point in time we get through the process, you might find that you want to separate this out some way or another. But I agree, it needs to be a group of people who are going to physically do the work.
You know how I love committees, just as many as possible.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Mr. Mayor, I was going to recommend maybe we should come up with like a date, not like a workshop, but kind of like an initial committee meeting date, and we tell the people that we think that would want to do this, the names that we have to be at this meeting, and during that meeting they can discuss a committee, maybe even elect a chair of the committee, and like Committee Member Dodd said, you know, if you got 3 people that really want to deal with parades, they can be the parade committee and as part of that committee. And maybe we don't have to make it so formal that if we can get the people that want to do it, they're going to be the ones that are going to do the work because they're going to show up for that meeting.
Oh, I think
not because they were appointed, but because they want to be there.
Yeah,
So.
one of the issues is we probably have to make it formal to be able to allocate the ability for them to spend funds.
Well, if the city manager is at that meeting, then he can be the formal aspect.
Yeah.
I just gave more work.
Yeah, I think that if I'm not mistaken, it seems like you're okay with just going ahead and going forward and putting a committee together and getting to work.
Yeah.
I'll follow the direction of council. I just don't want it to become a political committee.
No, of course not.
Agreed.
For sure.
Right.
Completely.
And, we want to make sure we have people that are interested in the history of Sebastian and have some history that want to move this celebration forward.
And once that committee's formed, you typically are going to generate a lot of people who are going to want to volunteer and help out with those events and whatever.
Definitely. Yeah, like I said, I'm open to any suggestion the council has. You know, I was kind of, Jeanette and I have talked about how they did it in Bureau. They kind of just did volunteers. But if you want to do it more formal and applications and do that.
I don't see needing that. Like Mark Gingras does the Shrimp Fest, for instance. So he's a festival guy. I know he's been involved in some of the other festivals. So I mean, it's like I fully trust what staff is going to do.
Why don't we just, because December 8th, 2024 is actually a Sunday. Why don't we get with the clam bake and have them move it back a month and hold the clam bake during the 100th anniversary?
Well, the 100th anniversary is going to be a year-long event, Mr. McPartland.
Oh, yeah, but you gotta have a 7:30 p.m. Sunday night meeting to commemorate the actual 100.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the actual day, I would say there has to be something. And of course, the day before is Pearl Harbor Day, so.
Sebastian 100th anniversary clam bake. I like that.
There you go. But again, that's all things. I mean, we don't. You want to?
Right. Well, I'm looking at, like you said, the festival guys. But the people who hold the festivals in our community, the major ones, every year, let them know we got the 100th coming on, and we need a little support from your group to make this successful. We help you, you help us.
No, I think that it could be more successful as a 100th anniversary event. Right? Yes.
Do it.
No, I agree, and I think all of those people will come out and help because we do have a beautiful and sustainable city, and those groups and organizations will certainly step up and help us. I have no doubt in that. And like Councilman Dodd said before, years ago, I've served on many committees. I went to those, and there were people that were there that would say they were part of this committee, but they never wanted to do the work. So you get somebody in that wants to do the work and wants to be there, and those are the individuals that end up doing all the work, while the other people on those committees don't do the work, but they want to receive the glory. So we have to actually make sure that we have people that want to work and want to be a part of that. And I know all of our organizations around town, Rotary and all of these different organizations would certainly be a part of that. I have no doubt about that, so.
Well, Mr. McPartland's glad that you
Yeah, I nominate
volunteered to do
Mr.
all of
Jones
that
as to
work.
lead this whole event.
Yes.
Well, Mayor Dodd, Mayor Hill will not have anything going on during that time period.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a perfect
You're darn
person
right
to-
I won't.
Now, let Mr. Carlisle handle that, I think
Okay,
so.
Mr. Carlisle, you have your direction, sir?
I think I have my direction.
Okay.
We'll
We look
reach
forward to
out.
a
We'll
stunning
reach out and
report
seek
as
for
we get
volunteers.
closer.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Anand.
Nothing for the board, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Carlisle?
So, yes, Mayor, in your packet, you have a citizen engagement survey, and this is going to be important. As part of our strategic plan, the group that we have helping us develop that, one of the things that we need to do is survey the residents and include those key items that the residents tell us they'd like to see changed or focused on in the city. And the next survey will go out to business owners. This will go out to about 1,500 people. You ask why it doesn't go to everybody, because one, trying to deal with 15,000 surveys is unmanageable and costly.
Mm-hmm.
The confidence rate for the city our size is about 1,000 surveys returned, so we'll send out about 1,500. When I'm mentioning this, and the reason I'm mentioning it is because when this goes out, we don't want them just throwing it in the trash. We want them to fill this out. This is the time for the residents to give us information, and it's going to be valuable for us to say, what do you want in recreation? Not what we think you want. What do you want to see in business in the city? Not what we think you want. This is the time for those residents to tell us what they want to do in our city, what they want us to focus on. And then we can help work on that in the budget and work that through our strategic plan and where we focus our energy. So I think it's important that and it's randomly selected through a computer program. It's confidential. No, we don't know who you are. There's no barcodes. There's nothing on it. So when you send it back in or you do an online survey after it goes out, then that will be very helpful for you to have an opportunity to speak to the city and to the council.
That's awesome.
So I hope you've read it, and this is pretty standardized, and we massaged it more towards Sebastian to try to, talk about what's going on in the city. And then one of the questions was the Fisherman's Landing status. We did the penetrative or forensic studies. They went in and we did, I think, 8 or 9 openings within the foundation or the walls from the outside, and so they're working on that report, and we should have something. It's going to take her some time. She didn't give me a deadline of when she would have that together, but there were some significant things that were found. We don't know what the results of that are going to be for repairs and what can be done there, but it's moving forward. And we did, like I said, the holes, and some of them showed that it wasn't as nearly as bad as we thought they were, and some of them were somewhat worse than we thought they were. But we'll have a better idea in a month or so when those come out. Stormwater Master Plan, our Monday meeting last week, they've been going out throughout the entire city gathering data. So this is the reason we say this is a true Stormwater Master Plan. They've taken 4,000 points of interest within the city: culvert crossings, culvert pipe sizes, road elevations, outfall elevations, things the city never had before. And now they're going to start the modeling process. So we settled on the modeling program. They'll take all that data, and that's where they're going to start showing where the water should go, where it's impeding. And when we show you the software when it comes out, it's pretty remarkable. And it'll have a lot of value to us in going for permits and grants and things. So that is moving forward. A lot of data gathered. I'm really impressed with it. And once they do the modeling, then they'll be coming up with a program to tell us what our capital projects are. But that phase of it's probably about 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 months away, depending on what the model shows. So I'm real excited about that. Real pleased with the progress they're making for the amount of time they've had to spend. And then the last phase of it is helping us work on some additional funding opportunities, either through grants or appropriations. So I'm real excited about the program.
You look excited. Very good. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
I got one question for him
Yes,
before.
go ahead.
Are we on track with our Public Works facility for the estimated closing time on it?
We are on track. I was out there just Monday and talked to the builder, and they're still anticipating being completed by the end of May. So the drywall's in, they're pulling some additional wiring, and it really looks good. The stucco's in, the building's all dried in, and the shop, they're finishing that up. It'll go quick now. So it's, barring any supply chain issues, it should be done by the end of May.
Great. Anything else? All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk? All right, thank you, Mr. Nunn.
None. Thank you.
Councilmember Dodd.
Nothing, thank you, sir.
I have nothing. I was going to ask the Krabby Bills question because that was brought up earlier, but thank you for answering that. Vice Mayor Jones.
I have nothing further.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Oh, great. I'm not going to leave with just nothing. Yeah, I like this survey. This is really good because I always like the last question. It's basically, where do you get your information from? And I think that's one of the most important questions because when we're trying to get the word out, that's who we're going to target. The couple of things I have is I'd like to see at a future meeting if we could go over the code enforcement and how it's enforced and know the whole process because, you know, I got some ideas about possibly fixing some of the areas. And then I was also wondering if, you know, about the city sometimes donating money to nonprofits with restrictions. And I was thinking about the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council. Like we could donate money to that organization and they would only help Sebastian residents with it being possibly rent assistance or, you know, utility. I mean, they already do, but that money typically runs out very fast on a monthly basis. And if we had, you know, some funds that we could allocate over there maybe, if you'd be inclined, you know, possibly. And with that, I have nothing else, Mr. Mayor. Oh, I have a couple of things. The Veterans Council, which I sit on, if anybody's, and I'll leave these with Jeanette, to, maybe we put them on Channel 25. Veterans Council of Indian River County. They got Neil Diamond coming Saturday, March 12th. And it's a benefit to support the American Gold Star Mothers of Indian River County. I mean, they're a very active group, help the veterans, and of course, excuse me?
Is it the real Neil Diamond?
It is, he looks really like him, okay? I can tell you that, Mr. Mayor. It's not the real Neil Diamond, unfortunately, but he's better than Memorex, I understand, okay? And then Vero Beach High School, the Performing Arts Departments, they're having their 29th annual Red, White, and Blue concert. That's Sunday, April 3rd at 2 p.m., Monday, April 4th at 7 p.m. And then they also are having, they do a lot of stuff down there. You guys put me on that council, oh boy. They do so much. I'm glad they put it all together for me. And they have another major fundraiser that's going to be at the county fairgrounds, and it's supporting, again, the Veterans Council. Denim and Diamonds, and they have ticket prices range there. You can go very simple for like $150. You can go all the way up if you want to sponsor their event up to like, what do you got, $5,000. But a real good time. They always have a lot of fun things happening within that organization, as well as they are supporting veterans throughout this community in all ways, shapes, and forms. So again, that's all I have, and you better get me until something else pops in my head.
There being no further business, we are adjourned.